assess the 100 days, then they're hot shot.
It's a Hallmark holiday, man. It's like a totally bogus journalistic convention.
You're like
that,
David Axelrod. This is you are the David Axelrod of Politico.
How come nobody waited to the 100 days?
Because no one wants to get scooped.
Right. So if anybody actually,
I don't know. You're not waiting for 100 days, so why don't you explain why you're not waiting for 100 days?
I can't remember why we didn't wait for 100 days.
And the point is, life has milestones for a reason, whether it's an anniversary, a birthday, whatever it is. And
you do not think it's bogus. You think it's useful. It's useful.
I think it's very useful to take stock at this moment. You can call it Q1. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But it makes sense to take a look and see where we are. Look at where his numbers have gone. Look at where his agenda's gone. Look at what's happened in the country. And he's in a pretty enviable position. He's a little bit in the position that George W. Bush was after 9/11, and that is just as Democrats couldn't root for an attack on the country, there's no Republican rooting for a depression at this point. So if there's a little bit of recovery, he's good in 2010. If there's a noticeable amount of recovery, history says that he can't be beaten in 2012.
It's also a good chance, I think, to do what Axelrod was saying, this idea, I wish people would try to put all these pieces together. I do think it's a good chance to sort of like step back and like, okay, like how does all this stuff fit together? Like what is he trying to do? What does he actually accomplish? What have we learned from him? Like when we were doing the story, we had that, like, hey, look at all those things that we thought about him going in that just seem so obsolete now.
Right.
The debate about race, the idea is like, is he ready for the job? Blah, blah, blah.
Celebrity,
Like, there's
yeah.
the celebrity side of things. Like there are things that we've learned about him that give you now a different lens through which to view the presidency.
If the 100 days is bogus, and let's say that's always a little bit bogus.
You're saying
it's
bogus.
less
Mike's
bogus.
not, and Mike's much more
No, I
bogus.
actually don't think it's bogus. I think it's, you got to take stock at certain times, so why not this? And it's less bogus with this administration probably than it's been in any administration since FDR, precisely because he had to look similar to 1933, like massive economic turmoil, the imperative for immediate action, and like the ability to take stock of what those immediate actions are.
The artificiality comes from the fact that, does anyone disagree, like, we're essentially left with a bunch of question marks. Like, we really have no idea yet whether or not his economic policies work, whether the stimulus was wise, whether the banking bailout will be a success, whether his new plan in Afghanistan will actually allow us to win there or sort of put us into
What
a
the political
quagmire.
market will bear in terms of spending.
Yeah, but what we do have is I think we have a surprisingly clear vision of how he's going to do the job, and I think it relates to your point that this is a remarkably mature administration, that it's sort of had like a dog year right here, and he's made so many decisions. He's had to show his cards on so many different avenues that I feel like we have a good sense that as you've pointed out, that he's not trying to play the centrist game. He's willing to go hard left with his proposals, figuring that he'll wind up in the middle with what's passed. He's not afraid to put out a big potential tab, knowing that it's in the end going to be somewhat less than that. So, he's making all his big bets up front, and then Jim's right. Like the results of those bets are yet to be seen. But we're not still wondering what kind of President Barack Obama is going to be. I think we have a pretty clear idea.
I think he's got basically one big bet, which is that he can put forward all these proposals, and still have not just a recovery, but within a couple of years, presumably by the midterms, robust economic growth. Like if it's lackluster, let's say it's a very mild recovery.
Jobless recovery. Start counting that. That'd be a good
The
drinking
implications
game.
of that are enormous. Politically, I don't think people signed up for look, we can do healthcare reform, energy overhaul, and the price of that is going to be no growth. Like that's a different political question. Substantively, if we don't have a huge recovery, these already enormous deficits are going to be bigger than anybody has ever conceived, and probably bigger than can be sustained. Without the government facing an insolvency.
Yeah, but it's a test to
an
the
enormous bet on economic growth.
It's a test of the bully pulpit because he is going to be out making the case for the next 2 years that, contrary to what you're saying, that in fact his energy, healthcare plans actually help with the exact problems you're pointing to.
But if he
I don't think
gets
it's a
that,
matter
it's
of
not even-
bully pulpit. I think like if it's a matter of like substantively, if there is not a recovery with robust economic growth,
Dude, you're not gonna have-
what looks so obvious now, which is that Barack Obama is like a political colossus, is not going to look obvious in a couple of years. Like the Republicans are doing nothing to reinvent themselves, but there's going to be a huge opportunity there if there's not a recovery. It doesn't have to be a recovery next quarter, but within a year, certainly 2 years, if we were like in a low growth mode, both substantively and politically, Barack Obama's going to have huge problems.